The one sentence that made New York's most feared mafia boss stop speaking wasn't a threat from an enemy. It came from a curvy accountant everyone ignored. In a boardroom where no one had ever dared question Vincent Moretti, Hannah Brooks stood up and challenged the man who had never lost an argument. That single moment uncovered a conspiracy buried for 12 years, shattered the loyalty holding an empire together, and forced the city's most powerful man to choose between fear and the truth. Neither of them realized that one fearless decision would put Hannah's life in danger and change both of their destinies forever. Rain hammered against the glass walls of the Moretti Atlantic boardroom, turning the Manhattan skyline into a blur of silver lights. Around the polished table, executives in tailored suits waited for Vincent Moretti to sign the acquisition that would expand his shipping empire before sunrise. No one questioned him. No one ever did. In 12 years, the man known as New York's most feared mafia boss had never lost an argument. Hannah Brooks sat quietly near the end of the table, the newest accountant in the company. She had been there only 9 days. Her simple navy dress, full figure, and calm silence made her nearly invisible until Vincent uncapped his pen. "Any final concerns?" he asked without looking up. The room stayed silent. Hannah felt every heartbeat echo inside her chest. She remembered another boardroom years ago, another signature, another lie that had stolen her career because she had stayed quiet. She had promised herself never again. She stood. "You can't sign that agreement." Every face turned toward her. Vincent slowly raised his eyes. "The ships don't belong to the company selling them," Hannah continued, her voice steady despite the knot in her throat. "They're already pledged as collateral through an offshore lender." A fork slipped from someone's hand, clattering across a china plate. One executive laughed under his breath. Another whispered that the new accountant had just destroyed her future. Julian Cross folded his hands with practiced patience. "Miss Brooks," he said smoothly, "perhaps you're misreading confidential maritime records beyond your experience." Hannah didn't answer him. She looked only at Vincent. He studied her for a long moment, unreadable, while rain traced cold lines across the towering windows behind him. Most men in that room expected anger. Instead, Vincent placed his pen on the table. "Prove it." The laughter vanished, hands trembling just enough for her to notice. Hannah opened the digital file she had reviewed before the meeting. Her breath caught. The registration numbers on the screen were different. Someone had replaced every document she had verified, and whoever had done it wanted her to fail in front of the most dangerous man in New York. For one endless second, Hannah couldn't breathe. The registration numbers on the screen were flawless, but they weren't the ones she had checked before walking into the boardroom. Every hidden lien had vanished. Every warning had disappeared. Julian Cross leaned back with the confidence of a man who expected the room to turn against her. "Do you still wish to continue, Miss Brooks?" A few executives exchanged amused smiles. Someone muttered that she had mistaken confidence for competence. Hannah closed her eyes for only a heartbeat. Then she remembered the habit that had saved her more than once. She never trusted a single copy. "I'd like permission to access the archived server," she said calmly. Julian answered before Vincent could. "The meeting is already delayed." Vincent lifted one hand. "She wasn't speaking to you." Silence settled over the room. An assistant connected the secure archive to the conference display. Hannah entered her credentials, praying the backup had survived. Seconds crawled by. Then another folder appeared. The original files. Every altered page sat beside its untouched version. Ship registrations, offshore loans, hidden collateral agreements. Someone had rewritten the entire acquisition package less than 30 minutes before the meeting. No one laughed now. Vincent compared the timestamps without saying a word. The room suddenly felt much colder than the rain outside. He capped his pen. The signing is cancelled. Several board members protested at once, but one glance from Vincent silenced them. Hundreds of millions of dollars disappeared with that single decision. He stood and looked directly at Hannah. Everyone else may leave. The executives filed out in uneasy silence. Julian paused near the door, offering Hannah a polite smile that never reached his eyes. We'll discover what caused this misunderstanding. She watched him disappear into the hallway. It didn't feel like reassurance. It felt like a warning. Minutes later, Hannah entered Vincent's private penthouse office overlooking the storm-dark skyline. Without offering her a seat, he placed 2 identical folders on the desk. One was genuine, one was fake. His expression never changed. Tell me, Miss Brooks, who inside my boardroom wanted to use you as the perfect scapegoat? Hannah looked at the 2 folders resting on Vincent's walnut desk. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, thunder rolled over Manhattan, washing the city in cold blue light. I don't know, she admitted. But whoever changed those files expected you to blame the newest employee instead of questioning the people you've trusted for years. For the first time that evening, Vincent didn't answer immediately. You realize, he finally said, most people would be begging to keep their jobs. I've already lost one career because I stayed quiet. The words came without anger, only exhaustion. My former employer altered financial records, blamed me, and walked away untouched. I'm not signing another lie just because someone powerful tells me to. Vincent studied her face as if searching for fear. Instead, he found resolve. I want you to investigate everything. Hannah shook her head. I won't do it as your prisoner. One dark eyebrow lifted. She met his gaze without flinching. If I stay, I have 3 conditions. I get unrestricted access to every financial record. No one edits or hides evidence from me. And if I decide to leave, I walk away without anyone stopping me. The silence between them felt heavier than the storm outside. At last, Vincent nodded once. Agreed. The following afternoon, Hannah entered the marble lobby of Moretti Atlantic under dozens of curious stares. A broad-shouldered capo deliberately brushed past her. They're hiring accountants now? He sneered. I thought this place had standards. A tray slipped from an elderly waiter nearby, sending crystal glasses crashing across the polished floor. No one moved. Hannah knelt without hesitation, helping the old man gather the broken pieces before anyone stepped on them. You'll cut your hands, the waiter whispered. Only if I rush. From the balcony above, Vincent watched the entire scene in silence. She hadn't defended herself. She had defended someone weaker. That evening, while tracing transfers through the Moretti Charitable Foundation, Hannah froze. A large payment had vanished into a shell company that existed only on paper. The authorization belonged to Elena Moretti, or someone wanted it to appear that way. Hannah stared at the transfer history while the lights of Moretti Grand shimmered across the Hudson outside her office window. The payment had passed through the family's charitable foundation before disappearing into a shipping company with no employees, no warehouse, and no physical address. That wasn't carelessness. It was design. The next morning, Hannah requested a private meeting with Elena instead of reporting her suspicions to Vincent. Elena arrived carrying folders against her chest, her expression tense before a single word was spoken. I know why you're here, she whispered. If I've done something wrong, tell my brother it was an accident." Hannah gently pushed the financial reports aside. "Look at me." Elena did. "I don't think you stole anything." Tears filled the younger woman's eyes. "I signed hundreds of approvals during the hospital fundraiser. Julian said everything had already been reviewed." Hannah nodded slowly. "Then someone hid the truth inside paperwork you trusted." Instead of accusing her, Hannah spent the afternoon rebuilding the approval trail, tracing every signature one document at a time. She quietly corrected several accounting errors before anyone else noticed, protecting Elena from public embarrassment without asking for credit. From the glass balcony above the executive offices, Vincent watched the scene unfold. Most investigators searched for someone to blame. Hannah searched for someone to protect. Later that evening, Vincent joined her in the archive room where old shipping records filled rows of steel shelves. "You could have reported Elena." "I could have," Hannah answered without looking up. "But innocent people shouldn't become shortcuts." Something unreadable softened behind Vincent's guarded expression. "You see people differently." "I see consequences." For several moments, neither spoke. Only the soft hum of fluorescent lights and distant rain filled the room. As Hannah opened another encrypted ledger, a sequence of authorization codes appeared beside an offshore transfer. Her fingers froze above the keyboard. Every payment had been approved using Vincent Moretti's highest-level security credentials. She slowly turned the monitor toward him. "I don't believe you authorized this," she said quietly. "But someone inside your empire has access to the only code that should belong to you." For the first time since they met, uncertainty crossed Vincent's face. He didn't deny it. He simply closed the ledger and looked through the rain-streaked windows, as if Manhattan itself had become a puzzle he could no longer solve. "The code has never left my possession," he said quietly. "Then someone copied it." Neither of them spoke again until Vincent picked up his coat. "She come with me." An hour later, black SUVs rolled through the iron gates of the Moretti estate outside New York. The mansion rose from the darkness like an old fortress, its stone walls glowing beneath soft golden lights. Inside, silence filled every hallway. Vincent led Hannah past portraits of generations she had never known, and stopped before a locked oak door. "My father's study?" He unlocked it, but didn't step inside. "You'll find financial archives in there." Hannah entered slowly. Dust floated through warm lamplight. Leather-bound ledgers covered entire shelves, untouched for years. Yet one thing drew her attention immediately. A worn leather sofa faced the cold fireplace. The blanket folded across one arm had been used recently. "You sleep here," she said softly. Vincent gave a faint nod. "I haven't spent a night in my bedroom since my father died." There was no self-pity in his voice, only truth. Hannah didn't ask what happened that night. Instead, she organized the scattered documents into neat stacks, brewed a fresh pot of coffee from the small kitchenette, and quietly replaced the thick report on his desk with a shorter summary marked only where his attention was needed. When Vincent returned, he noticed the changes. "You think I don't sleep because I work too much. I think you don't sleep because you're afraid of remembering." His eyes met hers. She hadn't judged him. She had understood him. The next morning, before the executive briefing began, Vincent handed Hannah an encrypted access card. "From now on, every department opens its records to you." Several senior directors stared in disbelief. Even Julian's smile faded for a heartbeat. As Hannah packed her files after the meeting, She noticed a handwritten note tucked beneath the final page of yesterday's report. The ink was fresh. "The man who murdered your father may never have left your empire." She looked toward Vincent. He hadn't written it, which meant someone else knew exactly what she was beginning to uncover. Hannah slipped the note into her folder before anyone noticed. Across the conference room, Julian Cross was already speaking with department heads, calm as ever, his polished voice carrying the confidence of a man who had spent decades earning everyone's trust. Later that afternoon, Vincent called a private meeting in his office. The authorization code could have been duplicated, Hannah said, placing several reports across his desk. But whoever did it also knew exactly which records to change and when. Julian folded his hands. "Digital systems aren't perfect. If someone copied your credentials, Vincent, we should tighten security and move on." "You sound certain," Hannah replied. He smiled politely. "I sound practical." Julian reminded Vincent that he had been the one who pulled him from the estate the night his father was killed. Without him, Vincent might not have survived. The room grew quiet. Old loyalty weighed more heavily than fresh evidence. Before Vincent could respond, the office doors opened. Victoria Hale stepped inside wearing an elegant ivory suit, every movement polished and deliberate. She greeted Vincent warmly before letting her eyes drift toward Hannah. "So this is the accountant everyone's talking about." Her smile never reached her eyes. "I assumed someone trusted with Moretti finances would look a little more established." Several executives chuckled softly. Hannah ignored the remark and continued organizing transaction logs. Victoria's amusement faded. Being overlooked had never bothered Hannah. Being distracted by insults would. That evening, she stayed alone in the archive room, reviewing every document Julian had forwarded over the past week. One by one, she compared timestamps, a missing invoice, a replaced shipping manifest, 2 approval pages arriving hours later than recorded. Not mistakes, patterns. She quietly photographed every discrepancy before restoring the files exactly as she had found them. When Vincent appeared at the doorway, she handed him a single sheet. "We shouldn't accuse anyone yet. You want me to wait?" "I want the truth to survive long enough to prove itself." He studied her carefully. Every instinct told him to strike before the enemy moved. Every fact she presented argued for patience instead. Outside, darkness settled over Manhattan. As Hannah drove home through the rain toward her mother's neighborhood, headlights appeared in her rearview mirror. The same black sedan followed every turn, and it never fell behind. Hannah tightened her grip on the steering wheel as rain blurred the windshield. She took 3 unexpected turns through quiet neighborhoods. The sedan copied every one of them, never speeding up, never falling back. By the time she reached her mother's small brick house, her heartbeat had settled into cold certainty. She wasn't imagining it. She parked beneath the porch light but didn't step out. Instead, she watched the sedan stop half a block away. The driver's door never opened. A moment later, another pair of headlights swept into the street. A black SUV. The sedan pulled away immediately. The SUV rolled beside Hannah's car, and Marco stepped out, his dark coat soaked by the rain. "The boss ordered protection," he said. "I didn't ask for protection." "No." He glanced toward the disappearing sedan. But someone else asked to find you." Inside the house, Hannah's mother welcomed Marco with hot coffee while pretending not to notice the tension filling the room. After years of hardship, she had learned that silence sometimes carried more kindness than questions. Marco quietly walked through the house, checking each window and door before returning to the kitchen. "You're safe tonight," For tonight, Hannah corrected. The next morning, Vincent was already waiting in his office when she arrived. You were followed. It wasn't your men. No. He slid a photograph across the desk. A traffic camera had captured the black sedan. Its license plates belonged to a vehicle registered under a company that had dissolved 6 years earlier. A ghost, Hannah murmured. Exactly. She laid her growing file beside the photograph. Someone forged financial records, copied your security credentials, framed Elena, and now they're watching me. Vincent's jaw tightened. This stopped being an internal audit. It became a hunt. Before either of them could speak again, an assistant rushed into the office. Sir, there's been an emergency. A freight warehouse owned by Moretti Atlantic had caught fire before dawn. According to the first reports, every accounting archive connected to the charity foundation had been destroyed. Hannah and Vincent exchanged a single look. Neither believed the fire had started by accident. Someone wasn't trying to erase old mistakes. Someone was burning tomorrow's evidence before they could uncover yesterday's truth. By evening, the Moretti Foundation gala glittered beneath crystal chandeliers, untouched by smoke rising over the ruined warehouse. Old allies filled the ballroom in silk and diamonds, smiling as if danger belonged elsewhere. Hannah entered beside Vincent in a deep emerald gown. Conversations softened. Victoria Hale noticed first. She crossed the room with champagne and a sharpened smile. How impressive, she said loudly. An accountant becomes a guest of honor after 1 week. New York truly rewards ambition. Several women laughed. Victoria stepped closer. Or perhaps numbers aren't the only service you provide. The insult silenced the ballroom. Vincent's expression turned cold, but Hannah touched his sleeve before he could speak. I was invited because I found what your friends hoped no one would see, she said. If that troubles you, ask yourself why. The laughter died. Then a waiter stumbled behind Hannah, splashing red wine across her gown. Gasps rose. The young man looked terrified. I'm sorry, ma'am. Someone pushed me. Hannah looked past him. Julian stood near the orchestra, watching. Vincent removed his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. No one leaves, he ordered. The ballroom doors closed. Security checked every entrance while guests whispered. Victoria protested that he was humiliating everyone over a stained dress. Vincent turned to her. No, I'm protecting the woman you tried to humiliate. He defended Hannah before the entire city. Then Marco returned from the service corridor, his face pale. He handed Vincent a small metal device found beneath Hannah's table, a transmitter. It had been broadcasting every word she said, and the signal led to a private room upstairs registered under Julian Cross's name. Vincent, Hannah, and Marco hurried through a private staircase while security sealed every exit below. The music continued in the ballroom, but upstairs only silence waited. Marco unlocked the suite. Empty. The lights were still warm. 2 glasses of untouched whiskey rested beside an open laptop, its hard drive removed with careful precision. A faint smell of cigarette smoke lingered in the air. He left minutes ago, Marco muttered. Hannah slowly searched the room without touching anything. A calendar on the wall had been torn apart, except for one page marked with tomorrow's date. Beneath it lay a folded blueprint. She opened it. It wasn't a map of the hotel. It was the underground storage level beneath Moretti Atlantic headquarters. Several maintenance tunnels had been circled in red. Vincent's expression darkened. Those passages were sealed years ago. According to the blueprint, Hannah replied. Someone wanted everyone to believe that. Before anyone could speak again, Marco's radio crackled. "Boss! Explosion in the basement archive!" The three of them rushed back through the rain to headquarters. Smoke poured from a service entrance as firefighters forced open steel doors. Employees stood outside wrapped in blankets, coughing but alive. "The fire was contained," the chief reported. "It started beside the oldest storage vault." Hannah covered her mouth against the smoke and noticed something unusual. The blast hadn't spread randomly. It had been directed toward one specific wall. She walked through the damaged corridor until her flashlight revealed shattered concrete. Behind it stood another door, older, hidden. Marco forced the rusted lock apart. Inside, rows of forgotten filing cabinets waited beneath decades of dust. No flames had reached them. Hannah opened the nearest drawer. Every folder carried the Moretti seal from 12 years earlier, the year Vincent's father died. As she reached for the first file, an envelope slipped onto the floor. Across its front, written in fading black ink, were 6 simple words. "Open only if Vincent survives tonight." The handwriting wasn't Julian's. It belonged to Vincent's father. For several seconds, Vincent did not move. Hannah placed the envelope in his hands. "I watched him die," he said. "Then let him speak now." Vincent broke the seal. Inside was a letter, a bank key, and a photograph of Julian Cross beside a younger Victoria Hale near the docks. On the back, Vincent's father had written the date before his murder. Vincent read aloud, his voice hardening with every line. Julian had been diverting money through false charities and offshore shipping accounts. When Vincent's father discovered the scheme, Julian demanded control of the empire. He refused. The final paragraph changed everything. "If I do not survive, trust the records, not the man who claims he saved you." Julian arranged the attack. He may rescue Vincent only to purchase his loyalty with blood. Vincent lowered the letter. He remembered Julian dragging him from the burning car, promising his father had died protecting the family. For 12 years, Vincent had mistaken guilt for gratitude. Using the bank key's number, Hannah found a matching cabinet inside the vault. It held original ledgers, coded payments, and one signed order changing the route of his father's car that night. Julian Cross. Vincent stared at the signature until the paper trembled in his hand. "I built everything beside the man who destroyed my father." Hannah reached for him. "You built it while surviving a lie. That isn't the same thing." Before he could answer, Marco's radio came alive. Julian had escaped the hotel. Victoria was gone too, and Elena's guards had been found unconscious outside her apartment. Vincent looked toward the open vault. The past had revealed the truth, but the people responsible were already moving to silence the last person he loved. The convoy reached Elena's apartment within minutes. Police lights painted the quiet street in flashing blue, while Marco's men secured every entrance. The front door hung open. Inside, furniture had been overturned, but there was almost no sign of struggle. "They wanted speed," Hannah whispered. On the dining table rested a single envelope addressed to Vincent. He unfolded the note. "Come alone if you want your sister alive." Marco immediately reached for his phone. "It's a trap." "I know," Vincent answered. Hannah took the letter from his hand and studied the paper. "They expect anger. They're going to get it." "No," she replied firmly. "But they're counting on the Vincent who reacts first." He looked at her, breathing hard. "The man who built this empire through fear is exactly the man Julian prepared for 12 years. The word struck deeper than any accusation. For the first time since learning the truth, Vincent forced himself to think instead of strike. Hannah spread the recovered ledgers across the table. Julian doesn't only need Elena. He needs every original record destroyed. Marco suddenly understood. The exchange isn't about her. It's about these files, Hannah said. Within an hour, Vincent announced publicly that he would surrender every document at an abandoned shipping terminal before sunrise. News spread through the organization exactly as Hannah expected. Julian would hear it. What Julian didn't know was that Noah Price had already delivered certified copies of every ledger to federal investigators and the district attorney under sealed protection. The originals had become bait. Before dawn, Vincent stood inside the deserted terminal with one locked briefcase. Julian emerged from the shadows, Victoria beside him, Elena bound but unharmed. "You finally learned the truth," Julian said with a smile. Vincent remained perfectly still. "No." He slowly lifted the briefcase. "I finally learned patience." At that exact moment, floodlights exploded across the warehouse. Sirens echoed from every direction. Julian's smile disappeared. For the first time in 12 years, he realized he had walked into someone else's plan. Federal agents rushed through every entrance as Marco's men secured the warehouse. Victoria tried to run, but officers stopped her before she reached the loading docks. Elena broke free and hurried toward Vincent, who caught her in a tight embrace before handing her safely to Marco. Julian stood alone beneath the warehouse lights. "You needed me," he said bitterly. "Everything you built stands on what I taught you." Vincent looked at him without anger. No. He placed the old letter from his father on the shipping crate between them. "I built my empire believing a lie. Today, I choose something stronger." Julian laughed once. "The truth?" Vincent nodded. "The truth." Agents recovered the forged ledgers, hidden accounts, and the original orders connecting Julian and Victoria to years of fraud and the murder that had shattered the Moretti family. As handcuffs closed around Julian's wrists, he stared at Hannah. "This was your doing." She answered calmly. "No. You destroyed yourself the day you believed no one would ever check the numbers." Weeks later, sunlight poured through the restored Moretti Atlantic boardroom. The same executives who had laughed at Hannah now waited quietly as Vincent entered beside her. He stopped at the head of the table. "The woman you once doubted protected my family, my company, and the truth." He turned toward Hannah. "From this day forward, every financial decision in this company will carry her authority beside mine." No one objected, not because they feared Vincent, because they respected her. After the meeting, Hannah stepped onto the rooftop terrace overlooking the bright Manhattan skyline. Vincent joined her with 2 cups of coffee. "The city looks different," he said. "It didn't change." She smiled. "We did." For the first time in years, he felt no weight pulling him toward the past. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Below them, the city moved forward, carrying 2 people who had discovered that the strongest empire was never built on fear. It was built on trust. When Vincent reached for Hannah's hand on that rooftop, it wasn't the victory over Julian that changed everything. It was the moment he finally chose trust over fear, and that choice gave both of them a future neither thought was possible. This story reminds us that trust is never created by promises alone. It is built one honest action at a time, even when telling the truth is the hardest thing you can do. Today, think about someone who has quietly earned your trust the way Hannah earned Vincent's. If that person is in your life, don't wait for the perfect moment to let them know how much they matter. Have you ever trusted someone who changed your life for the better? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this journey stayed with you until the very end, there's another unforgettable story waiting for you in the next video.